Hey, this is Jon Gordon with Positive University, and today my guest is Doc Rivers. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I mean, listen, we're living in some difficult times, John, as you know. We have the virus and obviously the protests, and it's just a tough time in all our lives and in this country. But we're all alive and we're kicking, and so we got to keep doing that.
When I met you for the first time, I asked you what was the most important thing you did as a leader, and you said communicate to my team. How important is communication right now to your team, also as a country?
Well, first of all, the team, it's really important. I wrote a letter to the team, to the players yesterday. And John, it's amazing how long it took me to write it, because you got to say the right stuff to them. You have to say the honest stuff to them. You want them to be leaders as well, but you don't want them to feel like they have to be leaders, And I thought that was very important for me to get that point across. And in this time, especially right now with all the protests, I wanted to let them know it's okay to speak. It's okay not to speak. Follow their heart. And then the most important part for me is to make sure they understood that not to become part of the story. Like, don't say something that then you're the story. Keep the conversation on what the conversation should be on. And so I did that yesterday. And you're right. You're one of the best writers, and I love your books and read everything that you do. You know how powerful one word is. And especially now, like we're in this time where we don't see each other as much, personally. And I think human touch is so important. So now we're writing and texting, and one word can be read into the wrong way. And so when you're writing now, you should really take your time and evaluate the words that you're sending out.
You just wrote an incredible thing that you put on Twitter, and you said that your dad was a police officer for 30 years. My dad was a New York City police officer. Your dad was in Chicago, I believe. What would your dad be thinking about right now, and what would he be telling you?
Wow, that is such a powerful question. As I said, he'd be really disappointed in what's been going on, with all the police abuse of power. It doesn't matter if it's police, coach, principal, teacher, president. It really doesn't matter. Abuse of power is abuse of power. He would be he would be challenged by that, because that's something he stood for, is doing the right stuff, doing the right things. And so what he would tell me is to speak my mind, but be honest. Don't be a follower. Speak your mind. Speak your truth. And then live with it.
What did you learn most from your dad growing up?
I would say besides the toughness, because he was one tough dude, was this thing about he never wanted you to be a victim. He just wouldn't allow it. He wouldn't allow it. If I came home, crying about something that happened, or at the park, someone cheated in the game or something, he was tough. He would just say, get over it. Keep living, learn from it, keep moving. But he always said this thing to me: you're not going to be a victim, son. He said that. I bet I've heard that 1,000 times, no victims in this house. And I think that's really served me well in my life, just in my sports life and just in my human life. It's really served me well.
What about your mom? What did you learn from her? I'm sure there's a lot you learned from your mom.
Oh, she was the best. A very religious lady. I used to tell people she used to verse me to death, with all the different, not only just Bible verses, just a very positive woman, no matter how, her favorite saying is, you're right where you're supposed to be. And it was a pretty sad story. We lost to the Rockets, up 3-1, had a 30-point lead, blew the game, lost the series. And my mom literally the night before Game 7 was put in the hospital and never came out. pretty much unresponsive. And so I fly to Chicago just to sit next to her. And I was talking to her sister, who was 80 at the time, basically complaining about, man, can't believe we lost this series, and my brother was sitting there. My mom hadn't talked in like a day and a half. And all of a sudden she lifts her head up and mumbles, "You're right where you're supposed to be." And it meant so much when you think about it. It meant, I'm glad that you're here. It also meant, well, listen, if you'd have taken care of business, you'd be there, but you didn't, so you're here. And you're right where you're supposed to be. And that was my mom.
Man, that is so good that you had that time with her, that experience. That's awesome. Yeah, my mom's last words were love, love, love as I came to see her in the hospital.
Man, we need your mom right now. I mean, really, because we need love right now for everybody. I do one thing, and I don't want to stay on the protest. I will say, though, and you brought it up with your mom, I do love seeing the different cultures that are protesting together. There are absolutely, like, there's some pictures that I've seen with people hugging, helping each other. I mean, we do have a lot of good people in this country who want to do right by each other. And so that part, maybe, hopefully your mom's right, and that'll come out of all this.
We do have to bring it to the surface, don't you think? All of this is coming up for a reason, and it's not a bad thing. As you have difficult times, you've been through difficult times as a coach, as a person, as a human being, it always makes you better in the long run if you're going to learn and grow from it, right?
Oh, no doubt. It's okay to have a difficult conversation. As you were saying earlier, we have them all the time, especially in sports, and we need them now. And we, listen, I think for me as a coach, the more I learn about my players, the better I can serve them and coach them. I think we need to do that as a country as well. And we really need to learn more about each other, learn about slavery, and learn about the plight of the Black person and what he's gone through. Someone explained to me, if you look at our country and you put it in 50-year increments, and this is the 350th year of the country, 250 of that was slavery. 50 the other 50 years was basically apartheid in a lot of ways. And now the last 50, really the last 25, have been of freedom. That's a big deficit, and it's going to take a long time to get out of that.
Yeah, it hasn't been a long time. And a lot of times people will say, well, that's in the past, but they don't understand that there's wounds that still exist. And also there's vestiges that still exist to this day. There's a legacy of slavery, of racism and so forth that people feel every day. A lot of my friends are former athletes or current athletes in the NFL and the NBA. And I talk to them all the time, and they get pulled over all the time while they're driving. I mean, it's like something that people don't realize unless you're Black. This happens on a regular basis, right? I mean, it's something.
Well, it's amazing how many times I've been pulled over, and I think about it in two ways. Number one, when you think about me, like, I'm pretty well known. If it's happening to me, can you imagine? And then the other one is the slavery part. Is just someone asked me the other day when we were talking about this. Great discussion. I think there was a Jewish guy, Black guy, Italian guy. I mean, we had we had a Japanese. Everybody was there, and one of the guys said, "Would you work for the Clippers for free for 1 year?" And I said, "No, I love my job, but I want to get paid." So what about 10 years and all the money goes to the Clippers and you don't get anything? And I said, "Of course not." He said, "Well, what about 260 years?" Because that's basically what happened. For 260 years, your people worked and got no pay and was denied education. And John, it's funny, as much as all those 260 years of working with no pay for free for someone else's wealth, and you built that wealth, and now all that wealth is what owns all the businesses now, but it's the education to me that hurt us the most. And that's the area, like, we can't get back that wealth, right? But we can get back the education. And to me, that's the area that we have to focus on.
Yeah, my good friend Emmanuel Alcho was talking the other day. He had a video that went viral. He played for the Eagles. He's on ESPN as an analyst, and he talked about this. He says there's very few African Americans with generational wealth like there is in the white community. I lived in Atlanta for years, and in Atlanta there is, because in Atlanta black people were able to own businesses and start insurance companies, and they had a lot of success there. But you're right about the generational wealth. So, but yet now we're starting to see a change, right? Do you feel optimistic about the future?
I do. I think, you go through times, and this is one of them, and then it all gets washed out and we take another step forward, right? I don't know where this is going. I don't think any of us do, but I do believe when it's all over, it will be a step forward. When you look back 30 or 40 years ago, we're clearly doing better. We all are. And then the next step again is where do we go from here? And I just keep falling on education and our kids. Like, I don't forget the 30s and the 20s year olds, but the kids, John, like, to me, that's my focus. That's what I put my time into, because I know that is the group that has a chance of taking a big step if we focus on them.
You dealt with the racism issue with Donald Sterling and all of that with the Clippers, and you took it head on with your team. Yeah. How important was conversations during that time and communication with your team during that point?
Oh, it was vital. I remember the day that the tape came out, and I was really disappointed because, number one, I was told about the tape 4 or 5 days before, but they told me it was no big deal. And it was nothing. So I'm thinking, honestly, it was a sex tape. I honestly didn't know what it was about. And when I saw it, I was mad at myself that I didn't look at it. But then, it's funny. I had to go in the room and talk to my players. And it took me a while to decide, should I put my Clipper shirt on or not? Because I am the coach of the team, and I chose this job. And so I chose to wear it. And when I walked in, I remember all their arms are folded, body language. It's funny, as a coach, you study body language. And, I can tell, 5 minutes into the speech, they were not hearing me. They didn't want to receive me, I guess, would be a better way. And then I remember putting my notepad down, because I always carry these blue notes, green, when I was in Boston. And I put it down and said, hey, guys, listen, my name is Glenn Rivers, all right? I'm a Black American from Chicago, Illinois. These are the things that have happened to me in my life. And I am more pissed or as pissed as you about Donald Sterling. But Donald Sterling will not take my dream away, all right? And I had a dream as a little kid that I wanted to be a champion. And in that dream, and when I was making those fake crowd noises in the backyard, Donald Sterling never played a part in that, and he's not going to play a part today. So, right after I did that was when you can see the arms go down and they let you in. Because sometimes people do forget who you are when you're the quote-unquote boss, and sometimes you have to remind them.
How important was it, though, to build the relationships you had built all along? Because I can imagine that if you weren't a coach that had a good relationship, if you were a coach that didn't have a good relationship with your players, then at that point, that situation would have destroyed the team.
Yeah, it would have. And it was vital. It was my first year with the guys, and we all had a really good relationship. The biggest decision we made, they decided they wanted one voice because they were so worried, again, like we said earlier, about someone saying something that they became the story. And they voted me to be the voice. What was great about that is I got a lot of credit for what I said. And really what I was saying is what the players told me to say. I asked them, I'll be your voice if you tell me what to say. And I thought our players did a great job. They spent time, John, like, the press conference, the first press conference that I had where, it was news agencies, everybody. They basically told me every word, what they wanted me to say and how. And it was pretty good, and it was all them.
That's incredible buy-in right there to have that kind of relationship and communication with them.
Yeah, it was a great buy-in. It actually unified our team. to a point where I thought we had a shot that year, and then it crumbled down. I remember Bill Belichick telling me, I called him after one of the Patriots losses. I think it was one of the Super Bowl losses, and Bill and I have a great relationship. He said, I've learned in this business, you either land the plane smoothly and there is a parade afterwards, or there's a crash landing. There's no other type of landing in sports. And I've learned that as well.
That's great. When did you realize that basketball could be a future for you?
Oh, early on. I was lucky, Proviso East High School. I think there's up to 12 NBA players from one high school. And it's not a recruiting high school like you see, these specialty high schools. It was a normal high school in Maywood, right outside of Chicago. And my uncle, Jim Brewer, who played at Proviso, went to University of Minnesota, was drafted number 2 in the draft to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I had a visual of someone making it in my family. And so I think we need that. Like, we need more that. Like, there's a reason, like, a lot of blacks choose sports because in their community, there is a role model. There is someone. And so that's one of the reasons. And that helped me for sure, that I could talk to him, I could see him, and I had a dream, so it was good.
When you were playing in the NBA, did you ever think that you might want to coach?
No, I really did not. It's funny. This is my 20th year, and I absolutely love it. I'm more fresh now than I was 10 years ago. Me and Pop, I've coached 20 straight years. I've had 20 straight training camps, I got fired once in Orlando in the middle of the season, but then I had a job by the next season. So it's I think Pop is 24 years. I think the next guy is like 11, and so I've been very fortunate. But I wanted to be a basketball player and never had any interest in coaching. And I played for Pat Riley, and it changed immediately. Like, he was amazing to play for. And I remember sitting in the locker room one day and thinking, listen to one of his speeches. And I was like, I want to be that. This guy, I want to do what he's doing. I want to be like that.
So when you first started coaching, were you raw? Did you know what you were doing? Did you have to learn a lot? What was that like?
Well, we never stopped learning. I swear, I learn every day. I read a lot, as you know. I still watch a ton of video and tape. And John, I've run plays that I saw in a high school game that has worked in the NBA. So one thing that I was always a positive coach, always a pusher. I believe like keep pushing. I've always done that, and I've learned to communicate better. I don't think you can ever over communicate. And I would say the biggest thing that I've learned of late is patience. Like, I've learned that early on as a coach, I thought I was a pretty impatient coach. I wanted it now. I wanted them to do it now. And I didn't understand if they did or if they didn't see what I saw. And now, probably from trial and error, I've become much better at that.
And you also learn from other coaches in other sports, right? You talk to a lot of different coaches.
I love it. I love football. Football's my favorite because, it's funny. Football, is in some ways the wildest sport. You see all these guys sometimes get in trouble and all that, but it's also the most disciplined sport. Think about it. A quarterback, and it also requires the most trust. Quarterbacks throw passes before the guy breaks. He trusts this guy going to be there. The discipline, if, on 3, if it's on 2 and you go too quick, it's offsides, it's such a perfect sport in that way. And so I look at the numbers they have to coach and they still have that execution. It's just phenomenal. So I spent a lot of time with Jon Gordon. I spent time with Bill Belichick, Tony Dungy. I'm around football coaches, Sean McVay, right now in LA, Matt Nagy, every Bears coach I spend time with because I'm a Bears fanatic. So it's been great for me. And they've taught me a lot.
I know Sean well. He's brilliant for such a young person, isn't he? He blows me away.
He's the best, and I'm saying this, and he's the best I've ever seen at that age. I've never seen a guy get it. Like I've seen a lot of young coaches with a lot of knowledge, right? And I think coaches learn over time. Knowledge is great, but if you can't get the soldiers to march, then the knowledge means nothing. And Sean has this way, like, what he did after the Super Bowl, like that was a brutal game, and he took it on him. He said, "Hey, I have to get better," and like he has a great feel for the situations and what to say. I've been very impressed with him.
What are your key values and principles as a coach?
Communication is one. Giving yourself up. Like, I think you have to give up yourself to your team, and your team has to give themselves back to you to be great. Otherwise, you can't have success. You just can't. I tell my players all the time, you cannot win in this game without giving up something. I think so many players think they can win as long as they continue to do what they do. And we know that's not true. You have to give up something. You have to give in. You have to put something in the bank. And so I'm a big believer in that. But I would say if someone said, what is the characteristics of my team? I would say exactly that: teamwork, giving. And I'm relentless on it. And some guys don't like it, and they don't play well for me. And I've always been okay with that as well.
And speaking of that, you're wearing a shirt that says squad over self. Squad comes first. Talk about that. Yeah. I love that.
Well, it's so important for us. You think about the team this year. We have assembled in my opinion, a great team. We have a chance to be champions. But we can only do that if we become a team. The collection of individual stuff does not work. You're not winning that way, right? And so, with Kawhi, phenomenal player, Paul George, phenomenal player, Lou Williams from last year, and Trez and Pat Beverly. And we've added guys, and everybody has to want to do the same thing. I think that's really important. When you get a group of guys that want the same thing, then it's easy for them to give up. When everybody have their own motives and their own agendas, you can't win. This team has been impressive, John, so far. Like they want to win. You can feel it. And they really want this season to get started back. I am so proud of them. They've worked their butts off, through this pandemic. And every day they're on, we do our COVID Zoom workouts, and they've been great. We have the saying, win the wait. That's our motto right now. Win the wait. Delay doesn't mean deny. And so our guys have been really good with it, and I'm very proud of them.
I love that. And one thing I learned from you was about the importance of one-on-one communication. You told me, John, you have to communicate collectively, but it's the one-on-one communication where you really build a relationship and trust. Can you just talk about that for a second as we come to the close?
It's funny. I think this the COVID-19 communication, in some ways, you can make a case we've communicated better. Because during the season, you communicate with your players once it starts. Hey, I need you to run the floor better. I need you to play defense better. What you don't ask a lot? How's the family? How are you? How's your health? Tell me about yourself. It's amazing how many great conversations I've had with my players individually. I had an hour and 40-minute conversation with a player on the phone. Like, you don't get that during the regular season. I don't think they want to be with you for an hour and 40 minutes. And they definitely don't want to hear from you. But we were talking about everything but basketball, and we were laughing at the end of it, So I guess take advantage of this, communicate more with your staff. If you're in business, communicate with your employers more. It's important because the one thing I've learned is they're going to be a tough time, right? And somewhere you're not doing anything great and not having a tough period. And when that tough period comes, it is great that you've built up some equity. that you may have to push someone and get on someone, and they'll accept you a little bit more. They're not going to care until you care, right? And so I think that's very important.
Do your teams want to know about the Boston Celtics when you won a championship? Do they often ask about that, or do they want to say, hey, we're our own people, we'll do our own thing, we're our own team? But do they want to know how you did it and what worked?
What's funny? They want to know more about individuals. I think because of NBA TV, they see a lot of the games, and so they know how the games went. Every once in a while, they'll ask, especially the Lakers-Celtics series, they'll ask a lot about that. The guy that, they ask the most about is Kevin Garnett, by far. I mean, I don't know if I've coached a player that player hasn't asked me, was Kevin that crazy? Was he that? And the answer is he was the best crazy. Like, he is, if you can have the best crazy, it was Kevin. He was so team-oriented. He's the best superstar role player. You got to put those two, because he was a superstar, but he was a role player at the same time. Superstar and role players do not go together. And yet Kevin somehow figured out a way to merge that. I thought he changed the culture of the Boston Celtics the moment we got him.
I know the football teams often ask about him, right? And you talk about Kevin to the football teams.
Yeah.
You tell them the kind of teammate he was, right?
Yeah, he was amazing. Every year after the first year, and the first year we got him, he did it. I'm sitting in my office right at the beginning of training camp. He'd knock on the door and say, hey, can I come in? I said, yeah. Can I use your office? The first time I was like, yeah, for what? He says, I want to bring the rookies in here and I want to talk to them. I want to show them and talk to them about what it takes, how to be a professional. And then his tailor walks in and he makes them each 3 suits. And he gives this whole presentation about, just like a businessman is going to work, bring your briefcase, that's your duffel bag, dress appropriately, and come to work. And he buys each rookie three suits. He was a fantastic leader.
That's awesome. What have you learned about yourself during this time, during COVID, and how have you grown? Because I know I've grown a lot during this time.
Yeah, I've grown out for sure. I told someone, John, that, I've worked out 4 or 5 days a week. I haven't done that in so long. But the refrigerator is open 24/7, and that is an issue. So I've learned that. I think I've learned a little discipline in this. I think you have to become very disciplined in this COVID-19 break or whatever. I really do. And I would say the other thing, and I keep going back to it, is just the communication and being organized. You just have to be. This is just different. I don't know in our lifetimes, and at least I'm hoping, that we ever will have to go through something like this. And just because we're slowly coming out of it now, I don't think we understand the damage that has been done. And so we still have a long way to go.
But I know that sports are going to make us all better when it comes back. So that's the good thing.
Amen to that. I'm hopeful.
So as we finish up, what are you excited about as we move forward? Is it the season?
I can't wait. I want to crown a champion. I love this group. I believe we're going to be that. But believing that and doing it is two different things. I think this group wants a shot at it. We just want to get back at it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to happen. The one thing, and I would say this not only just for our team, but everyone, whenever this all starts, basketball in our case, it's not going to be the same. It may not even be fair, right? And you have to be okay with that. And I tell my players that. I've told them now for 2 straight weeks. I think they're sick of it. It's not going to be fair, but we're still going to win. It's not going to be fair. We're not using that as an excuse. It's not going to be fair, but it's very fair because the same people are doing the same thing. So let's not let that be the reason we don't win because we're worried about the way the formats are or whatever, that we're in Disney playing games with no fans. So is the other team. And to me, this champion this year may be the most worthy NBA champion in the history of the game, because whoever wins it would have had to go through more than any other team ever had to go through. And I'm telling our guys, let's be worthy champions.
Such great advice for life as well, right? Because even graduates coming out, it's not going to be fair. We don't know what the future holds, but right now you have to make the most of it and find a way forward.
Yeah, I was talking to a graduating class, high school kids, and just talking to them. And one of the kids said, "This isn't fair." And I said, "This will not be the worst day of your life, young man. You missing a party and a bad graduation speech will not be the worst thing in your life. So enjoy it, move on, and I expect you to be a leader." And so it's interesting. It is very easy for us all to fall into that. This 2020, how many times have you heard that? 2020 is awful. And someone just told me that. And I said, we haven't even, what do you mean awful? It's not even halfway. Like, how do you make it great the second half? Like, you can't give away the year. That doesn't happen. So 2020 is going to be great. That's the way I look at it. We're going to make it great.
Man, that is encouragement to me. I needed that as a speaker who has all these events canceled. I needed that encouragement right now.
You'll double up.
That.
You'll double up in October.
Doc, you're one of the best communicators on the planet. I love the way you lead. You're an incredible leader. I just appreciate you so much. And thanks for making time to do this with me.
John, always a pleasure for me. Thanks. Appreciate it.